All right. Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join me for a short travel preview of Norway. For many people, Norway is something that they've thought about for a long time, often because of family history or a general connection to the country. And what we found is that there usually comes a point where it starts to feel a little more real. And so, what I'd like to do today is simply walk you through what the experience is like, what you'll see, how it all works, and hopefully help you get a clearer picture of whether this might be the right time for you. Now, my name is Amanda Hancock, and I've had the pleasure of working at Brekke Tours for nearly 20 years. I've traveled extensively throughout Norway and have planned trips for everything from individual travelers to larger groups. So I've had a chance to see what works well for a variety of travel styles. And while I've come to really appreciate all of Scandinavia, Norway has always been the heart of what we do at Brekke Tours. So that's why we are focusing on Norway today. Now, just to set some expectations, this is a really informal and completely no pressure presentation. I'm just going to walk you through a few highlights of Norway, some things to think about before you head over there, and then what a typical tour might look like. And then we'll have plenty of time at the end to answer any questions. So just to give you a little background on us, Brekke Tours is a family-owned company, and we're based in Grand Forks, North Dakota. We've been specializing in travel to Scandinavia for 70 years, and we have a strong focus on Norway. Over the years, we've really concentrated on this region, which has allowed us to build long-standing relationships and deep familiarity with the destinations that we offer. And our goal has always been to strengthen cultural ties between North America and Scandinavia by creating meaningful travel experiences. So now that we've covered a little bit about Brekke Tours, let's turn our focus to Norway itself and what makes it such a unique and memorable destination. Of course, one of the main reasons Norway draws people from all over the world each year is its spectacular fjords. The fjords are really the heart of Norway's landscape. They've been carved by glaciers and they're surrounded by mountains and waterfalls. They've also shaped how people have lived for generations, with many communities built right along the water. There are about 1,700 fjords in Norway, but a few tend to stand out more than others, and I thought I'd take a moment to highlight three that we commonly include on our escorted tours. And these three fjords are the Hardanger Fjord, the Geiranger Fjord, and the Sogne Fjord. And to give you a sense of where they're located, all three sit along Norway's western coastline. And while they may look fairly close together on a map, they're actually quite spread out, so it does take some planning to experience more than one. And while they're all fjords, each one has a slightly different feel. Some are more dramatic and steep, while others are a bit softer with villages, farms, and more open landscape. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those three fjords in a little bit more detail now, just to kind of give you some ideas. And the first one is the Geiranger Fjord. It's one of Norway's most famous and visually dramatic fjords. It's recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's surrounded by steep cliffs and lush green mountains, and it's best known for its striking waterfalls, including the Seven Sisters and the Suder, and they cascade down the fjord's rugged walls into the waters below. The fjord is relatively compact compared to the Sogne Fjord, but its scenery is especially concentrated, with scenic viewpoints like Dalsnøva offering sweeping panoramas. Small farms cling to the mountainsides, and they hint at the area's history and the challenges of life in such a remote location. Now, the Sogne Fjord is located in Norway's scenic fjord country, and it's the country's longest and deepest fjords. So it's about 127 miles long, and it reached depths up to 4,291 feet. Its waters carve through towering mountains and branch into iconic narrow fjords, including the UNESCO-listed Narrow Fjord. Nearby, you'll find Europe's largest mainland glacier, which adds to the dramatic landscape. And the last one is the Hardanger Fjord. It's often referred to as the Orchard Fjord. It's especially beautiful in the springtime when fruit trees bloom along the fjord's shores. The area is also home to some of Norway's most well-known waterfalls, including Fossen, as well as the scenic Hardanger Plateau. Cultural traditions remain strong here, with local villages known for folk costumes, music, and regional crafts. Now, the fjords are what draw many people to Norway, but there's really a lot more to experience beyond that. So, you've got scenic railways and charming towns, glaciers, and of course, the countrysides. There's a surprising amount of variety within a relatively small area. And that's what makes traveling through Norway so interesting. You're constantly seeing something that's a little different along the way. When we talk about going beyond the fjords, that includes a lot of different experiences. And one of the most memorable ways to see Norway is actually by train. Norway's train routes are considered some of the most scenic in the world. And it's really not hard to see why. I mean, just look at this picture. So these routes take you through mountain landscapes and areas that are otherwise hard to access. And these scenic trains don't just offer great views, they also connect you to the towns and communities along the way. What makes Norway's towns a little different from other places in Europe is that their scale and setting. They tend to be smaller, quieter, and closely connected to the surrounding landscape. You're never far from the water or the mountains, and that gives them a very relaxed, unhurried feel. And at the same time, their history is still very present. In places like Bergen, you'll see it in the Hanseatic Wharf, and in Trondheim in its ties to Norway's Viking past. So while they're simple and relaxed, they also have a strong sense of place and history that shaped what you see today. And as you travel through the countryside, you start to see a quieter side of Norway. Small farms, open valleys, and communities that feel closely connected to the land. You'll often see farms tucked up into the hillsides or along the fjords, places that have been part of the landscape for generations. It's a slower pace, and for many people, this is the part that feels the most personal, especially for those with family ties to Norway. And these are the kind of landscapes where earlier generations lived, and in many ways, they haven't really changed that much. And while Norway's countryside gives you a glimpse into everyday life, it's never far from some of the country's most dramatic natural landscape, like its glaciers. Norway is home to some of the largest glaciers in mainland Europe, and what makes them unique is how accessible they are. You can actually get quite close to them without needing any special equipment. Many of the fjords and valleys you've seen were shaped by these glaciers over thousands of years, so seeing one up close really helps bring the whole landscape into perspective. It's a completely different kind of scenery, and for many people, it's something they don't expect to experience. Now, depending on when you visit, if you venture north of the Arctic Circle, even light becomes part of the experience. In the summer, you have long days, which give you more time to take everything in, and it adds to the relaxed pace of travel. And in the winter, you can chase those fantastic northern lights. Now, for me, the best part of traveling is finding the hidden gems. And these are the kind of stops that often end up being some of the most memorable because they're a little unexpected. So, some of my favorite gems, I just picked some. First is the Ernest Stave Church. It's one of the oldest wooden churches in Norway. It dates back to the 12th century. It sits above the Sognefjord and offers a glimpse into Norway's early history and craftsmanship. And the Taltra Maria Kloster is a modern monastery set in a very peaceful open landscape near Trondheim. It's quiet, reflective, and it's a place that offers a different perspective on Norway's cultural and spiritual traditions. And then the North Cape, it's one of the most northern points of Europe, and you can reach it by road. So, and while there's many that really they know about North Cape, it's there, but given its location, it's not a place that most visitors in Norway get to go. Standing there, you are looking out over the Arctic Ocean, and it really gives you a sense of how vast and remote this part of the world is. It's a fantastic place. Shifting gears a little bit, we're going to look at Sarpsborg and nearby Fredrikstad. These are two of Norway's oldest towns, both with roots going back to the Viking era. Fredrikstad is especially known for its well-preserved fortified old town with cobblestone streets and historic buildings, and together they offer a glimpse into Norway's early history in a setting that feels authentic and less visited. And then Røros is another place that I really enjoy visiting. It's a UNESCO listed mining town known for its preserved wooden buildings and rich history. And I will be honest, walking through it just feels like you're stepping back in time. It is amazing. And it's especially beautiful in the winter. So if you've ever thought about visiting Norway in the wintertime, Røros would be my number one destination for that. And then Vesterålen, it offers a more off the beaten path alternative to the Lofoten Islands. It's known for its dramatic coastal scenery, wildlife, and a quieter, less crowded atmosphere. And then we have Gallerfjell. It's one of Norway's scenic mountain routes. It's known for its winding roads and dramatic viewpoints. What makes this especially unique is how varied the landscape is. You'll pass lakes, waterfalls, and mountain terrain, all in a relatively short distance. It's also less traveled than some of the other more well-known routes, so it gives it a quieter, more relaxed feel. And then finally, I have to mention Halholmen. It's my favorite place to stay in Norway. And if you want off the beaten path, well, there is no path. So you have to take a boat because it's on its own island. It's off the Atlantic Ocean Road, which is another scenic tourist route in Norway, and it has views for days. So you can see up here in this top left-hand picture, that's where you would be staying. So amazing. It's just an amazing place. I love that place. So while Norway's fjords may be what initially draws people to Norway, what people often remember isn't just the fjords, it's a combination of everything. The scenery, the small towns, the quiet moments along the way, it all comes together to create a memorable trip you just won't experience anywhere else. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do is show you how all of this can come together in a typical trip to Norway. But before we do that, I want to take a few minutes to cover some helpful things that you might want to keep in mind when you start thinking about planning a trip. So when it comes to timing, Norway really offers something different in each season. Summer is, of course, the most popular, with the long days and plenty of time to be outdoors. Spring and fall are a bit quieter, with fewer crowds and a different feel to the atmosphere. And in winter, especially further north, you have a chance to see the northern lights and experience a completely different side of Norway. So, having the right gear can also make a big difference no matter the season. In the summer, it's really about layers. Temperatures can change throughout the day depending on where you are at. Comfortable walking shoes are a must, especially with cobblestones and some uneven terrain. And it's always a good idea to bring a light jacket or a raincoat as weather can change quickly. You might also want to pack a swimsuit as many hotels have pools and spas. And if you're visiting family or friends, a small gift from home is always appreciated. And one thing that people often ask about is currency. So Norway uses the Norwegian kroner, but it's good news that credit cards are pretty much accepted everywhere, even for small purchases. In fact, most places don't even use cash anymore. So for most clients, it's very easy. You can simply use your card and not have to worry too much about exchanging money. And then just a few other little questions that we typically get from people that are traveling to Norway first time. Of course, what is the food like? And you can expect fresh seafood, local specialties, and familiar international options. Dietary needs are generally well accommodated in Norway. What about electricity and charging devices? So Scandinavia uses European outlets and adapters are required, but voltage converters are usually not, especially if your device is dual voltage. Really all you need is just the adapter, which just changes your plug. What will the weather be like? So average daytime temperatures for June, July, and August range from the high 40s to the mid 60s, depending on where you are at. Weather can change quickly, so that's why we recommend layers and waterproof outerwear, even in the summer. And if you're planning to pack light and do laundry along the way, just keep in mind that laundromats are pretty limited. Some hotels do offer laundry services, but it can be expensive. So, packing a few items you can easily hand wash and hang to dry is usually the easiest option. All right, so those are just a few helpful things to keep in mind. Now, let's talk about how all of this comes together in a typical journey with us. So most trips follow a general flow like this. You will start in Oslo, you'll travel through the fjord country, and then end in Bergen. We'll also include a fjord cruise, a ride on the Flam Railway, and a visit to a stave church along the way. And what's nice is that everything is relatively well connected, so you're not spending long stretches just getting from place to place. So you'll typically arrive in Oslo where you'll have some time to get settled before meeting your group at the hotel later in the evening for dinner. If time allows, getting outside and walking around is one of the best ways to adjust to the time change. It also gives you a chance to explore a bit based on your own interests. Some people choose to visit places like the Munch Museum to see the Scream, or explore a bit of history at Akershus Castle or the nearby Resistance Museum. And sometimes it's just the simple things. I personally like to stop in at a local grocery store just to pick up a few snacks for a trip and to see some of the different foods and flavors that you can't find here in the US. And then from there, the journey really begins. You'll travel by train, boat, and road throughout the countryside and fjord regions. In Norway, getting from place to place isn't just transportation, it's actually a big part of the journey. You'll travel by train, by boat, and by road, and each one of these offers a completely different perspective. And what makes Norway unique is how all these different ways of travel connect, and each one becomes part of the experience. But then some of the best moments happen in between destinations. So you have a quick stop for photos at a scenic overlook, or even something unexpected like feeding goats on the side of the road. Those are the moments that really tend to stick with people. And having the flexibility to make these impromptu stops makes the trip feel much more relaxed and enjoyable. But of course, one of the highlights for many people is actually experiencing the fjords themselves. So you'll spend time in the fjord country where you'll experience the scenery from different perspectives, either on the water, from different viewpoints, or within the towns themselves. And you'll also experience a mix of both larger cities and smaller, more out of the way places. Cities like Oslo, Bergen, and Trondheim give you a sense of history, culture, and everyday life in Norway. But what really adds depth to the journey are the smaller places, towns like Rjukan or Vrådal or Lofthus, Røros, and Lom. These are the places you may not necessarily find on your own, and they offer a quieter, more personal look at Norway. It's that combination, seeing both the well known cities and these lesser known communities, that gives you a more complete picture of the country. And while traveling through Norway, you'll stay in a variety of accommodations that reflect the different places you're visiting. These might include waterfront hotels, historic properties, or smaller locally owned places that give you a better sense of the area. They're all comfortable and well located, but what makes them memorable is the setting, whether it's along the fjord, in the mountains, or in the heart of a town. And some of these places people remember just as much as the destinations themselves. And meals are a really enjoyable part of the experience, and they vary quite a bit throughout the trip. You might have a traditional dinner at a local farm, or something a little more unique, like a visit to a tropical island to have dinner. So these are the settings can sometimes be just as memorable as the meal itself. And it's a nice way to experience local flavors, but also spend time together and reflect on the day. And like everything else on an escorted tour, it's all arranged for you. So all you have to do is just simply enjoy it. And one of the things that we're very mindful of on our escorted tours is pace of the trip. So it's structured so that everything flows smoothly, but it's not rushed. You're seeing a lot, but it's broken up in a way that gives you time to take it all in and enjoy where you are. There's also a nice balance between guided experiences and free time, so you have opportunities to explore on your own as well. Another thing that's helpful to talk about is what to expect physically on an escorted tour. Overall, the activity level is very manageable for most travelers, but it's not completely passive, so you'll be up and moving throughout the day. You may encounter things like cobblestone streets, uneven paths, short inclines, especially in historic areas and scenic viewpoints. And some locations may involve a few stairs or a short uphill walk, but these are typically brief and at a comfortable pace. The day is naturally broken up with time on the motor coach and at scenic stops, so it doesn't feel continuous or strenuous. And of course, your tour director is always there to help set expectations and offer guidance along the way. So, one of the biggest advantages of traveling on an escorted tour is that everything is arranged for you ahead of time. Your transportation, hotels, many of your meals, and the key experiences are all included and built into the itinerary. That means you're not having to figure out things as you go. You can simply focus on enjoying the experience. And with the tour director and local guides along the way, you also have that added insight and support throughout the trip. It really takes the guesswork out of travel and makes the whole experience just seem much more seamless. And I know there are a number of companies that offer tours to Norway, and many of them visit similar destinations and include many of the same highlights that I've just covered. But what really sets Brekke Tours apart is the depth of knowledge that comes from specializing in Norway for 70 years. That experience allows us to go a bit beyond the standard itinerary. We incorporate unique places and experiences that add more depth to your trip. It also comes through in our tour directors, who play a big role in shaping the overall experience. They share insight, provide context, and help everything run smoothly. And ultimately, it helps create a trip that feels more thoughtful, more personal, and more memorable for our travelers. So I also want to mention, just because I know this came up a number of times on the registration form, we do offer customized travel options as well. So for families or private groups, we can tailor an itinerary based on your interest, areas of heritage, timing, and what you'd like to experience. It's really the same level of planning and expertise, just designed specifically around your family or group. So if that's something that you've been considering, we'd be happy to talk you through what that might look like. A question that we often get is, when is the right time to start planning? And the reality is, it's not too late to look at 2026. And at the same time, it's not too early to start thinking about 2027. So whether you're ready to make the decision now or just starting to explore your options, this is a great time to begin the conversation. If you're considering traveling this summer, we offer a range of tours throughout Norway, each with slightly different focus and pace. Some are centered more around the fjord region, while others include additional cities or regions depending on what you're looking to experience. So there really isn't just one right itinerary. And if you're thinking about timing, it's also worth noting that Norway has been discussing the possibility of introducing additional tourism related taxes in the future, such as overnight taxes. So nothing has been finalized yet, but it's one of those factors that could make 2026 a good time to travel. So I just want to start out with a couple of tours, and these are great examples of how the experience can vary. So for our Norway Scenic and Historic tour, um, there's a good emphasis on cultural and historical sites, and some of those smaller, lesser known places that we talked about earlier, such as Røros and Haholmen, Selbu. So some of those places you're not going to find on other itineraries. So on the flip side of that, Norway's fabulous fjords, it focuses more on the classic scenery, fjords, waterfalls, and some of the most iconic landscapes found in Norway. So it's a great choice for first-time visitors. And then if you're looking for something a little different, we have Delightful Norway. It's one of our small group tours, so it's limited to 20 travelers. It has a slightly slower pace and a more personal feel as a result. And this is a great tour for returning visitors, so we have some unique experiences also included. And then Best of Norway, it's a little bit more of our classic tours. It includes many of the key highlights and offers a variety of well-rounded, it's just a good, well-rounded introduction to the country. So it's another great option for those visiting Norway for the first time. Now, many travelers are planning further ahead than they used to, especially for destinations like Norway. So, if you're considering a trip to Norway in 2027, it's not too early to start looking at your options. You can find a preliminary tour schedule on our website, as well as review itineraries for 2026 to see what might work best for you and get some ideas. So, whether you're thinking about next year or just starting to plan ahead, we're here to help you guide you through the process. So, what is the first step to your Norwegian adventure? Well, it begins with either a phone call, an email, or a visit to our website. On our website, you can explore our different tour options as well as download a brochure or a tour schedule for 2027. But if you prefer to call or email, we are happy to answer your questions, discuss different tour options, or just talk about how wonderful Norway is. But I do warn you, this could be a long conversation. So just be prepared. So, hopefully, this has given you a better sense of what traveling through Norway can look like and just how much variety there is to experience along the way. So, whether you're thinking about traveling next year or just starting to explore ideas for the future, this is a great time to start talking about that. Whenever you're ready, we're happy to help you plan something that feels just right for you. So, thank you so much for joining us today. And now I'm going to go ahead and open it up for the questions that you may have. And again, you can submit those down in the bottom right-hand corner if you just want to type your questions, and I will do my best to answer them. I may not have all the answers, but I'll try my best. Um, we have some people typing. Are there restrooms on the buses? So that is a great question. So on our larger buses, there are restrooms. Our smaller tour buses that are, like a mini bus, usually those do not. But even with that said, we typically stop every couple of hours for a restroom break anyway. So, and I will be perfectly honest and frank. The restrooms on the bus, I would only use those in an absolute emergency because trying to use the bathroom on a moving bus can be difficult sometimes. Um, but yes, so our larger buses, yes, there are restrooms on board. Smaller buses, not necessarily, but we do stop every once in a while anyway. So we want everybody to be comfortable. Do we do tours of 6 to 10? So if you are looking for a customized tour for just you and your family, of course we do. So if you just want to take you and your immediate family, you and your immediate family, and your cousin's brother's former roommate, whatever, that's something that we can certainly help with. So, yes. Do we still have the rental property near Flum? No, we don't anymore. So that was actually our owner's sister's property, and she no longer rents it out, unfortunately. So that's a shame because it was a really neat place right along the fjord. We have a desire to spend more time in Norway after the tour, of course, and that is something that we can help you arrange as well. So we have pre and post tour packages that we have already created that can easily be added to your trip. And then we can also do customized things. So if you want to go and visit, where your family's immigrated from to see, the church or to visit, maybe the old farm or something like that. That's something that we can help you with. So, and the nice thing is that we can make all those arrangements for you and you're not having to contact other people. It's all done through us. So, do you see old castles or old Viking ships? So, In 2027, the Viking Ship Museum in Oslo is supposed to reopen. I don't know when exactly yet, but so that would be a great place to see Viking ships is at the Viking Ship Museum in Oslo. The museum, before they closed it for their multi-year renovation, was amazing, and so I'm hoping that the new museum is just as good, if not better. So that's a great place to see that. There's not a whole lot of castles in Norway. They have some fortresses. So Akershus Fortress in Oslo, Håkonshall in Bergen. Those are great places to see kind of what I would consider castles. They do have a lot of manor houses, though, that are a lot of fun to visit, in my personal opinion. There's one outside of Bergen, Rosendal Barony, and it's a beautiful place, has some lovely gardens. So if that's something that would be of an interest, we could certainly help you find places to see those. So how is driving if we elect to drive ourselves? So driving in Norway is actually really easy. They drive on the same side of the road as we do. You do need to be proficient in roundabouts because they do have more roundabouts than what we typically do here in the US. Cars are smaller, roads are smaller. So that is something to be aware of. And also, driving in the fjords and on some of these smaller out of the way roads can be a little tricky. They're very windy. So I know if people get car sick, that kind of thing, that could be kind of difficult for them. But driving itself is not difficult, I don't think, as long as you feel like you're proficient in roundabouts and driving a smaller car on a smaller road. So. And we do, yes. So if you would like to rent a car, we can certainly help you with that, and we can help you plan your whole itinerary with car rentals included. So how many days is the tour? Depending on what tour you select, we have escorted tours from 9 days all the way up to 14 days. So most of our tours are around 11 or 12 days. So they're not fast. So you're not gonna get up at 6 a.m. and go until 10 p.m. at night. We don't do that kind of stuff. Typically, we will get started, maybe around 9 a.m. and then we arrive at the hotel before dinner. And so you have plenty of time, if you want to go for a walk after dinner or go jump in the fjord for a quick dip. That's something that we allow people because it's a vacation. We don't want you run ragged. So we want you to enjoy your time in Norway and actually get to experience it and not be rushed from place to place. So, but if you are doing a customized tour, then we can make it as many days as you want. So, but I would say in Norway, you want at least a good 7, 8 days, like actually in Norway, to see some of the best highlights at the minimum. So airfare prices. So one of the nice things about our group tours is that we lock in airfare months in advance. So our tour prices come with airfare from Minneapolis, and so those have not been impacted due to what's going on in Iran. Now, with that being said, if you are booking, just flights, if you want to travel independently or you want to go on a Hurtigruten cruise, things like that, that is going to vary just depending on the days of the week and availability and that kind of thing. So but I would say if you are interested in traveling this summer, if you are looking at airfare separate from one of our escorted group tours, book it now. Because I don't feel like they are going to decrease. Um, so anyway, that's my take on that. And can you combine Norway, Sweden, and Denmark? Actually, yes. So we do have a tour of Scandinavia. It has been sold out for the summer. It's called our Captivating Scandinavia Tour. It is sold out for the summer, but we will be offering it again in 2027. But if you are looking to travel on a customized itinerary, that's something that we could easily do. So that is not a problem. We can easily combine that. And if you do decide that you want to travel this summer, we could also add Sweden and Denmark as an extension. So that's something that we could help you with. Do we do tours in Iceland? So we actually don't offer tours in Iceland, but we do have a couple of partners in Iceland that we work with. And most of us here in the office have been to Iceland before, so we can help you either create a self-drive tour, or if you want to take an escorted tour, we can make a recommendation based on what it is that you're looking for. And that would be through one of our partners. And these are partners that operate similar tours to ours as far as I feel like the quality. I feel like the quality is comparable to ours, so we feel comfortable recommending them to our clients. So, but if you are interested in Iceland, I love Iceland. It is a national park on steroids, in my opinion. The landscape is so different than Norway. And we do have a lot of people that do a stopover in Iceland on the way to Norway. And if you think that they are in any way, shape, or form similar, they are not. So it's quite a distinction between the two countries. So I always find that interesting. These are great questions, guys. And I do want to point out, if you are looking for 2027, we do have a preliminary tour schedule on our website. We'll be opening up early registration for our 2027 tours later in the year. So what's nice about that, you can go ahead and reserve your spot with a refundable deposit. And then once we confirm, all of the services for those tours, you get the opportunity to confirm your registration or cancel or move or what have you. So it's kind of a nice option to go ahead and secure your spot. And again, with our tours, airfares built in, so that it kind of a nice protection against current events that could impact airfare later on the road. So so we have somebody asking about how late in the fall do we offer tours in Norway. Our last tour departs August 17th, and that is our Delightful Norway tour. And I'll just go back to that slide. So we do have a couple of tour departures in August. The first one would be the Best of Norway. It departs August 7th and returns on the 17th. And then we have Delightful Norway that departs August 17th and runs through the 26th. So those are some of our later tours. After that, it would be we could help you do a customized itinerary. So if you wanted to travel to Norway after that, we could do an independent package or customized, which is kind of the same thing, but you would be traveling independently. How many people are on a typical tour? So I will say for um, our more popular tours, such as Best of Norway, Spectacular Norway, and Splendor of Norway, those are probably our three most popular. Those can range 25 to 40 people. I would say typically it's around the 30, 35 mark, just as an average. Um, our our more focused tours, like our Scenic and Historic tour, that's one of our most comprehensive tours of Norway. And that it's a longer one, so it's a 14-day tour. So that one is usually less people, so you're looking maybe 20 to 25. So it really just depends on the type of tour, but just in general, I would say 20, to 25 people on some of our longer or more out of the way tours, and then that bumps up to about 30 to 35 on our more popular tours, but we never take more than one bus. So, and we never fill the bus, if that makes sense. So there's always empty seats on the bus because we want people to be able to enjoy, and we don't feel like it's too many, we don't want too many people crowding into one location at the same time. So I hope that makes sense. And then, are there single accommodations available? Yes. So if you are traveling singly, or as a single, there are a couple of options. You can have your own room. There is a single supplement included on each tour. And then, if if you are open to having a roommate of the same gender, that's something that we can help arrange, and we would put you two in contact ahead of time to see if that's something that you both agree on. Otherwise, you would have a single room by yourself, and then you would just have a single supplement charge for that. Um, but I will say that if you're looking for a smaller group tour, Delightful Norway is a maximum of 20 people, so that is a really nice group size. And again, this is a great tour for those looking for something a little out of the way. So you have an overnight at the Dahlin Hotel, for instance, which is the fairy tale hotel, and then we've got dinner on a tropical island. So it's kind of, there's some really unique things that you'll get to see and do. You've also got 3 nights along the fjords, so it's a really nice tour for those looking for something a little different. Um, so let me go back to, oh, went too far. So again, if you are interested in talking with us, getting some more information, obviously the website is a great resource. You can find all of our tours for this year, our preliminary schedule for next year, our brochure. You can download a copy there. And then when you are ready to actually talk to someone, we have our direct line, and then we have our 800 number here, and then of course our email. So we are happy to answer any questions that you may have, whether it be about traveling this year or about next year. So um, if we don't have any more questions, or if you think of something later, it's always a great, I always think of questions about 5 minutes after, I need to. Please feel free to call us or email us, and we'd be happy to answer your questions. The nice thing is that all of us in our office, we have traveled to Norway, we have been on our tours, and so there, and since we're a really small office, I'll show you our lovely staff. There we are. That's it. That's us. Um, you can, I mean, this is the people that you will be talking to, and like I said, we've all been to Norway. We know the region, and I myself have been doing this for almost 20 years. So there's a lot of knowledge in our office that you can take advantage of. So put us to work for you. But anyway, uh, yes. So when you are ready to take that next step, please contact us, and we would be happy to talk to you about Norway and how we can make your trip easy and pleasant and memorable, and just especially if you have heritage. That's something that we really, again, that is the goal of our company, is to strengthen those ties. So we are more than happy to help you with that. So with that, I will go ahead and thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. I hope you found this educational and maybe inspiring, and we look forward to seeing you in our little favorite corner of the world in Norway at some point in the future. So thank you so much again, and hope you have the rest of your day is wonderful, and we will see you soon.